Hello, everybody. Welcome to Industry Interviews by Ira Bowman. I am thrilled today. I have one of my friends, and he's an inventor. He's a CEO. He's an amazing human being. Geoffrey Stern, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Ira. Great to be here.
If you weren't awake before the show started, hopefully that music got you going. We've got people from all over. We've got Ashen from India. We've got Nick Dorsey. He's a facilities guy from Arizona and a huge Raiders fan. He's going to deny it, of course, in the comments, but we like to tease each other. This is Jiva from Finland. Welcome to the show. And I don't want to butcher the name. From Nigeria, Emmanuel from Nigeria. Actually, that's easier for me. So welcome, everybody. As you're joining, let us know where you're from. If you have any questions for Geoffrey or for myself, feel free to ask them in the comments. We're here. We're going to be taking all kinds of questions. I'm going to be putting Geoffrey through the paces, and we want to introduce him and the Voice Express and have you get to know all about him. But if you have any questions, we definitely... Oh, your mentor is named Jeff Stern. But you prefer Geoffrey, right?
I do, because the way I spell it leaves too many opportunities to butcher it if you go too small. You know, Geoff and Goof. So I just say stick with Geoffrey.
I am a goofball, so I can appreciate that. But yeah, I always like to call people what they want to be called. You know what I mean? Like, my name's Ira. You would think that it would be easy for people to get my name right, but I get called just about everything but Ira by most people. So hello from Las Vegas. Julia is one of my favorite audience out there. She's active. She asks smart questions, and she's a really good person. So let's get to it. Geoffrey, you are the CEO of a company called Voice Express. Now, a lot of people probably have not heard of Voice Express, although with over 50 million products shipped, more people have heard of you than some might think. It's a big company, but the product that seems to be every time I mention it to folks, Build-A-Bear, then all of a sudden they go, oh yeah, I know who you are. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the company. Was the company founded in 1995? Is that right?
Thereabouts. That's a long time ago. I've been doing this for a while.
That's 25 going on 26 years ago. So tell us how you got the thing started.
Well, like any entrepreneur, I started with a germ of an idea. My dad was in the floral supply industry. He supplied ribbons to flower shops. And I was scheming one day with a brother who was a party planner. And we were saying, well, what does the floral industry need? And we say, wouldn't it be cool, my brother said, if you could go into a flower shop and record a message and record it onto a cassette. And then when the flowers get delivered, they come with the cassette and the person puts it in a tape deck and plays it. And I said, great idea, because I love the idea of, we all talk about it's the thought behind the gift that counts. But so much of what we do when we buy a gift and we do a transaction, that thought is an afterthought. So I said, great idea, but guess what? It's not going to be a cassette. It'll probably be a voice chip, because I had a technology background. And you're probably not going to have to walk into the flower shop. I mean, this goes back 25 years, but they already had wire services like FTD. I mean, 800 Flowers came along, and they were the first ones to really exploit the potential of a toll-free number. So the idea was already there that you could pick up the phone and order flowers maybe from your local florist in San Francisco and have them delivered same day in New York. I mean, we call that just in time. We call that order online, pick up in store. But that kind of all existed. FTD is 100 years old. So came up with an idea of, wouldn't it be cool if you could do just that? You could pick up the phone, record the message over the phone. It would be stored on the cloud and downloaded into a little keepsake that would play the message when the flowers got delivered. And we filed a patent, got a patent on it. And that was the germ of the idea that launched. But like any good entrepreneur, I started coming up with concepts, use cases for it. And one of those use cases was, wouldn't it be cool if you could put a little voice recorder inside of a teddy bear? And then I said, okay, and it would be cool if you could have a T-shirt on the teddy bear and you could print a photo, because I was always into multimedia. So it's image, it's smell, it's sight, it's, triggering all these emotions. And I found a T-shirt supplier in St. Louis, and he made T-shirts for little teddy bears. Not that easy to find. You couldn't Google it in those days. And we were, doing just fine. And I had a container of teddy bears on the way in. And he said to me, can I show this to another customer? And I said, sure. And that other customer was Maxine Clark, who was starting Build-A-Bear Workshop. And in those days, I think they probably had only 4 stores. Now they have 400, 450 stores worldwide. And she called me with trepidation in her voice. And she says, can I just buy the voice recorder from you guys? Or do I have to buy the teddy bear? And I said, and this is with a container of teddy bears en route to the US, without an inkling of what I was going to do with them. I said, if I never see another teddy bear in my life, I'll be a happy guy. I'm just in it. I'm in it for the technology. And that's basically how we started. And those 50 million little sound chips, here's a sample of what we sell to Build-A-Bear. They go into, don't know if you can hear it. So we sell licensed sound, we sell music, we sell voice recording, but literally 30% of every Build-A-Bear that goes out the door goes with sound. And sound is pretty much the first thing you do after you pick the skin. So that's how I got to where I am today in terms of Build-A-Bear, my claim to fame.
Well, it is fascinating. And we're going to get into, just so everybody knows, we're covering now the history. We're going to get into the current products, the Connect products that are available now. And even we're going to look into the future and try and pick Geoffrey's brain and figure out, if we can, a little bit of what might be next. But I'm so happy you used one of my favorite words, and it goes along with senses, but it's emotions. The emotional response is something that in the print business, and this is the common thread that you and I share. For 20 plus years, I've been in the print industry, 21 years to be exact. I've been in the print industry, and I have always tried to invoke emotions in and for my clients with the products and the projects that I've worked on. I was familiar with what your company did, but not with the name of your company, because I have actually, in my experience, utilized voice recordings, and I wish I could go back and see if they were indeed Voice Express, and they probably were. I'm assuming they were products, but things like containers opening and sound happens. For example, this is just one example that I'm aware of. In Las Vegas, the Raiders, this was their inaugural season in Las Vegas. They moved from Oakland to Las Vegas, and they sent out to every single season ticket holder, when you purchased your ticket, you got a box. The box lid would open, and there's the Pirate Wind is a Raider is the theme music for the Raiders. And it played that as you saw this 3D box display holding the tickets, and it was the inside of the stadium. And that's what we're talking about here. That's what you're talking about with the senses. You've got this really cool packaging, and you've got this audio that plays. Now, I don't know that there's any scent, like if they put anything in it that made it smell like natural turf or whatever. That would be cool if they did. I don't know. But the senses are a big part of this, to invoke emotion. And some of your products, like even the flower one that you were just talking about, they're one of the original ideas for the FPD flowers, being able to record a private message that might not mean anything to most people, but could mean the world to the one person who it was intended for. And you and I have talked about, and I would love to share this if you don't mind. One of the things that you've seen, because we've talked about it, is sometimes people will leave a voice message, and then unfortunately they pass away, and it happens. But then their voice is still captured on that device, and then that device, whether it be a teddy bear, a picture frame, or whatever it is, takes on a whole new meaning because of the sentiment. It's like they can cling on to that voice. So I don't know if you have a story maybe that you could share about that, but that's to me, that's one of the powerful things about voice express technology.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack there. But, you started the interview today by asking what name I like to be called. And, the name that we're called is the first trigger that we encounter as a baby. And then it just goes on from there. It smells, it's the touch and the feel of a parent, and it's words. And unmediated voice is probably the most native and primal way of impression. So when you hear a song that you first heard in college and you hear it now, you can almost smell the beer on the floor of the dorm room. I mean, right. These are amazing triggers. And unfortunately, fortunately for Voice Express, but unfortunately for the world, they're not utilized enough. So for instance, we have a product that really encapsulates just sound. We call it Voice Gift. It's for sale on Amazon. And basically, it lets you record a message. And records up to 60 seconds. And we found during COVID that people are talking over the phone like never before. I mean, we thought that the emoji killed the telephone, but people are talking because it's the sound of a voice that connects us, and we're isolated. And there are elderly people who just crave the sound of their voice of a loved one. It's a familiar voice. And so we sold out because everybody wants to have a way to send their voice and to keep their voice in mind of loved ones. In terms of Build-A-Bear, I learned from them. The way the store works is you go in, you pick your skin, which is just the plush toy. And then the next thing you do after you go to the Choose Me station, you go to the Hear Me station. So the first thing you do is you animate your purchase with sound. And so that started us thinking about different ways that people gift, getting back to what I said before. Maybe it's the voice that should come first in a transaction. So we're launching over the next year, starting with the Voice Gift, this concept of being able to go to an app or to a store. And before you agonize and feel the pressure of picking a gift, many people find it's very angst-ridden. It's you don't know whether you're spending too much or too little. Are you sending the right signal? Is she on a diet, and should I not buy her a box of chocolates? All of those things. It makes gift giving not something that people look forward to. People like Ira and I am sure I speak well for you, Ira. We procrastinate. It's the last thing we want to do, and most of it is not because we're lazy, but because it's just overwhelming.
There's a pressure.
So what we found, it's great to talk about emotion is important and emotion first, but if you do studies, and we've done some anecdotal studies, if you get the message right first, let's say you pick just the right song that I danced to at my wedding with my wife, and then you make a little voice dedication. Once you have that, you already are imagining the smile on her face when she receives whatever you send her. So it's not as though the gift becomes irrelevant, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the gift is a token of the emotion behind it.
Right.
And so we're looking at e-commerce in general, and we're saying, whether it's sampling by companies, in the day when you used to go to stores, in some stores you would go and people would push samples to you. It was whether it was in the perfume department, they'd give you a spritz, or in Costco's, they'd be giving you, tastes of a new cheese or something. The best way to sample
on Saturdays At Costco on samples, you could go and feed your family for
Yeah.
lunch. Yep.
But the best way to sample is when you get something from somebody you love or respect or appreciate. So, what does this do to the sampling industry, which potentially enables you to send a card or a message with a sample? So, these are all of the kinds of things that this technology makes us think creatively about. And to be honest, the phone and my emails are ringing all the time with people who come to us with ideas. I mean, half the ideas that you can see on the board behind me were people that came to us and said, "Could you do this?" So you were talking about print, Ira. The way we got into the print industry is I got a call from someone who said, "You know that Hallmark card you open up and it plays music? Could you do a card like that would play 3 minutes of audio?" And I say, technically, we could do it, but who would want to listen, for God's name, in 3 minutes of audio? And soon enough, he came to me and he said, look, it's very difficult for reps to get to doctors anymore. They're just too busy. And in the old days, when you went to a doctor, it was called a mini detail. You'd make an appointment if you were a rep. You'd sit down with the doctor. You'd explain about your beta blocker and dosage and clinical studies. Couldn't do it anymore. So they said, could you make a card where we can get to the doctor and they can
Symphony 1 offers a range.
Just go ahead and press a button, get all of the information that they need. And lo and behold, the pharmaceutical industry is great at tracking data. And what they saw is that the doctors were writing more script. They felt more comfortable and confident. So we were really, this is not like singing a song. We were imparting real data to the doctors in a way that wasn't distracting. They weren't getting it over the phone. They didn't have to put a memory stick or a DVD into a player. It was unmediated, immediate. And that's how we started to look at how can you deliver messages that are self-playing. You've all heard of the Internet of Things. We are into the voice of things. So you take a product, whether it's a box that you get with a new blender, and you open it up and you're overwhelmed with all the features. And studies have shown if you don't discover those features in the first day or two, you probably just use it like your last blender. You'll never use it for soup, and and if you can have something that answers your frequently asked questions and directs you to try this and try that, it makes all the difference in the world. So these are the areas in terms of print. You reference to that is what we have in common. Ultimately, is there a place for print in this digital world that we live in? And we'd like to think that the digital world is great, but it has its limitations. And, we're all looking at our smartphones. I can imagine half the viewers here who are looking at this podcast, every so often a text is going to come in from the side, or a message will come in. It can become very distracting. And if you can create self-playing application-specific modes of communication, you get people's focus too. So these are the kind of the sandboxes that we're playing in.
Well, there's no doubt. And I'm gonna say, well, I'm gonna tie some of this together in my own personal life. So presents are a big pressure. You nailed that for me, because I'm always trying to get something that expresses my love and affection for my wife. And my wife's love languages, if that makes sense to you, are a little bit different than mine. So, for example, her number one gift, what she wanted for Christmas, was one of those little iRobot Roomba Zumba things, whatever they're called, right? Little vacuum robot. It goes, but you talked about, the packaging and having that message, which I didn't do because I didn't use voice gift, which I should have. My mistake. $8 on Amazon, people. You can buy these things. They're really not expensive. And by the way, for those of you who are looking, just go ahead and click on this link. It's in the comments. That will take you to Voice Express's page, and you can click to the Amazon and buy it right there. It's $8 a piece. Okay. 60 seconds of recording. I should have done that, but I didn't. But one of the things my wife did tell me, and this was a revelation to me, I didn't realize. She's like, Ira, I really like the package, but I normally buy gift bags, because when I wrap, it looks like a 5-year-old. I'm not skilled in wrapping. But I did wrap the present myself. And my wife said, it means a lot to me that you actually took the time, because it shows me that you care, to actually wrap the present. She didn't even know what she got yet. We were having this conversation. I'm like, that's cool. But I bought her one of these $700 robot things, and it was confusing for her. And so I could imagine if they had, opened the package and there's a card, just like you said, a brochure or a manual that would highlight out the features, and then you push a button and that one explains how to use that one. And then you push another button and explains how to, you know what I mean? And my wife, who's not technically savvy, she's not like me, right? We complement each other more than we are identical. So she would have loved it. And I'm like, these robots, they're $700. Imagine if they had just invested a few dollars in packaging to include those voice. You don't have to be connected to Wi-Fi. You don't have to be at a computer. You don't have to have a smartphone or any of that stuff. It's just there whenever you want it. That's what we're talking about, Voice Express. It's one of the things. Now, many of the things we were talking about in the beginning were business to consumer type products. But this is business to business, where the businesses can buy it and utilize it. You're talking about the doctor scripts. These pharma companies can buy it and explain it and get more business. Well, there's all kinds of commercial devices, including it's over your shoulder. I believe it's your right shoulder, right behind you.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a point of sale or point of purchase display case. And those are the types of things that I was printing in a lot of cases for my clients, to increase sales. So now you're at your, whether you're Target or your Walmart or whatever store you're at, or this could be, display cases that people bring to trade shows, to have maybe in their conference room for meetings, all kinds of different things that they could do. You walk into the foyer of a business and, instead of having necessarily a receptionist right there, a lot of people now have telephones. Well, imagine you have that with a brochure rack for the different things that they offer. So there's all kinds of cases that people could use. One thing that I'm curious, you talked about some of the Connect stuff that you're getting into now. Do you want to just introduce the product range? Because there's a few different products.
Absolutely. Well, and I know your listeners are also interested in the entrepreneurial journey. So I talked about how we started with these cards that just had audio. And then like anything else, what happened was, our customers would say, what else do you have? What else can you show us? Yeah. So then we came to them and we said, well, what happens if you put a video screen inside of a card? So you might have seen these, but we were the ones who innovated and brought it to market. And what was amazing to us is they're not inexpensive, but for high value prospects, when you sell someone a car, or even if you sell them a robot that's cleaning their house, hopefully it's the beginning of a long-term relationship. And when they come out of the lease, or when they go to buy a new car, you want them to remember you. And so therefore, every point in the path of purchase is valuable. So the pharmaceutical companies, they would spend $40 or so. And this is one for wealth management. But the idea was you want to be able to engage directly with the customer. So we had a good run with those about 5 years ago. And then recently, it's January. So my guess is the biggest gift that's given over the last 3 years is, and I got to turn off my Alexa before I mention her name. Okay, there we go. So the biggest gift that people are getting, especially in terms of technology, is an Alexa Echo device. Amazon subsidizes these things. They're almost, you can get one for $20, $30. Right. And that's because Amazon understands the power of voice. But the bottom line is that's in December. Come January, people are looking at them and saying, what do I do with it now? So people listen to music and they ask for the weather, and they put in reminders, give me an alarm and all that. But the point is that all of a sudden we have a population in the world that understands voice as an interface. And so what we came up with, and this is what I'm really excited about, is what we call a smart speaker in a card. So this looks very similar to the cards that I just showed you with audio. The difference is it not only plays audio, but it responds to audio. And getting back to what you said, Ira, about frequently asked questions, it's very easy for a brand to know what people are asking about their product. Right. And so the question is, you get that robot and it's unpacked and it comes with a card like this. And you get introduced directly to the brand. You hear the brand spokesperson. We had a choice Could we use text to speech with a synthesized voice that you hear, or should we hire a real actress? And we decided for our showcase product, we would hire a real actress. But I'm going to open it for you, and we're going to go through a few prompts, if that's okay with you. And we're going to, this is brand new. This is fresh off the press. So this is the debut, Ira, on your show of the Connect brochure. So let's give it a listen, and I'll walk it through some prompts.
Hi, I'm Ariana, and I'd like to welcome you to Voice Express Connect, a smart speaker in print. You're holding a Connect brochure that lets brands communicate with just the sound of your voice. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Connect is revolutionizing direct mail, point of purchase, and after-sale engagement. Want to hear how? You can say direct mail, point of purchase, or after-sale engagement.
Direct mail?
Great. You're interested in how Connect revolutionizes direct mail. Now more than ever, direct mail needs to grab the attention of the recipient and provide useful information. Most critically, your campaign must be actionable. Our smart speaker in print is the first mailer that responds to voice prompts, providing specific information of interest to the recipient. Want to learn how Connect delivers a call to action? You can say engage, inform, or respond.
Respond.
I heard you loud and clear. You want to learn how the Connect brochure provides a seamless way to respond to a call to action. Our brochure gives enough information, but still leaves them wanting more. When you ask the Connect brochure to connect, it can provide a toll-free number, SMS code, or email address. Better yet, it can provide the name of a companion app or smart speaker skill. The information contained in the Connect card is finite, but the information offered on the companion app or skill can be infinite, updated regularly, and timely in nature. The Connect brochure is the first printed sales collateral which provides an uninterrupted gateway to your brand. Heard enough? You can always say Connect. If you want to learn more, just say engage, inform, or use cases.
Connect.
I'm thrilled you've experienced our breakthrough.
You got it. So that was the international debut of the Connect brochure.
Yeah.
And it is patent pending. And I'll tell you what's patent pending about it. Not so much that we put voice recognition into a card and that you can use it without pairing it to Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, which was critical to us, getting back to what I said before about it has to work out of the box.
It can be used anywhere, right?
It can be. But what and you can imagine this at a point of sale. This could be a shelf talker. You could be in front of the hair care shelves and be overwhelmed by all of the different products that are offered and be able to engage with it and just say, well, this is what I have: dry hair and it's frizzy and whatever it is. And it can help give you product recommendations and so forth. But what is patented or patent pending about it is what it does is it tracks the different choices that you've made. So when I said connect at the end, it didn't just give me a code to give to an SMS that it would give to anybody. It basically will give me a code that if I was interested in direct mail, it'll say direct mail. If I was interested in direct mail for the pharmaceutical industry, it could go ahead and give me that. Because one of the most, I would say, perturbing aspects of talking to a robot or even a live agent is you go through 5 minutes of conversation. They say they're going to transfer the call and you start all over again. Right. If the conversation doesn't continue, then you haven't been listening. So this is an amazing tool, we believe, for discovery and for making a seamless transition from informing and then responding and then connecting to the appropriate service station. In this case, you can set up a Zoom call with me just by sending the SMS that it asks you to send. So we're really excited about it.
I have been reaching out to some of my print vendor friends because I'm excited about these products, and that's why you're on the show. I'm telling them pre-sales, during sales, or point of sales is more specific to the industry jargon, and post-sales. I see advantages and way to use this in all three areas very clearly. I was just talking to some of my friends about this product. And I said, imagine you're in front of a shelf at a store, whatever you're going to buy. There's 3 different products from 3 different manufacturers on the shelf that you're considering. They're all, let's say, the same price point. You've never heard of any of them. 2 of them have just the traditional, price, and maybe there's a poster or graphic of some sort. And one of them has voice express technology, and you can ask it questions and it understands your question and responds to your question with specific information. And like you said, this is from the FAQs, of course. But which one do you think they're more likely to purchase? All, again, same price, no brand affinity. So there's no, I'm not leaning towards one or the other. I'm not predisposed to a brand, and I'm going to purchase. Or even if they did, let's say we're talking about shoes and they've always bought Nike, but now you've got this other brand and it's, a little bit less expensive. It looks like it's the same quality shoe. And now you're talking to this thing and you go, you know what? I didn't realize that Shaquille O'Neal or somebody endorsed this thing, or my favorite athlete, whoever that is now, right? There's all kinds of ways that this could be used. Like I said, I would have been excited to have something like that for my wife with the robot. Because again, after she bought it or after I bought it, you want to make sure they're utilizing all the features. Because like you said, industry marketing research shows that if you don't figure it out in the first 24 to 48 hours, you're never going to figure it out, because people, this is what it is. That's our nature. So I think it is super cool. So when can we expect to see some of those? Let's say there's a business owner watching, because I know there are. A business owner is watching and they want that product. How long does it take to get from, first meeting to these things are out and they're ready to use?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest question that I get from potential brands who want to use it is, well, how do we develop it? What do you need from me? And getting back to the frequently asked questions, that's what I say. I say you must have a list of frequently asked questions. You must also have the 3 most important things that you want to tell the client. So we walk them through. We have a whole onboarding procedure where they go ahead and figure out that those 3 things, just like the brochure I just shared with you, said direct mail, point of purchase, and after sale engagement. If you were a car brand and you wanted the owner of a new Mercedes to get one of these things when they got the car. So, what's the first thing people ask when they get the car? The customization. How do I fix the seat and the mirrors so it remembers me? How do I get the garage door opener to work? Customize it for my house. So there's customization. Then the next thing is service and warranty and all of that good stuff. And the third is adventures. What is Mercedes doing in terms of green initiatives? What are we doing in terms of taking my 4x4 off the road, or fun things? And then once you get those 3 buckets, then you drop down from there and you go, okay, so someone who hears that little introduction, where do they go from there? And then you split it up. So it's actually, I say to them, you've never developed, you've never made a video maybe, but you send out videos all the time. You've never written a screenplay. But what you have done, and what we've all done, is do a conversation. That's all we're going to do. We're going to create a conversation for this card. And of course, we have the experts who help you craft it. But to answer your question, once you get the structure of the conversation, then we send it over to the sound engineers, and they do 2 things. The easy part is to translate those questions either through text to speech into a script or through voice talent. And then the more sophisticated part of it is we take all the prompts that are going to be used when the brochure is being used, and we send it out to people by gender, female, male, age, ethnicity, and everybody says over and over again, direct mail, or whatever your prompts are, customization, and it's machine learning. So our chip needs to learn. Then ultimately to program it takes about 14 days. We send back a device that doesn't look like the card. It has a little box, and you can go ahead and pass it around, and everybody can try it and make sure it works to your satisfaction. We also take advantage of Alexa, and we go ahead and put together a quick skill on Alexa. So anyone on the team, no matter where they are, can go ahead and demo the flow. and the interaction. And make sure I come back to what we do with Alexa a little bit more later. But just to finish, then it takes 30 days to manufacture. Our minimum order quantity is 1,000 at this time, so you're talking about a 45 to 60-day turnaround. And getting back to the Alexa part, after we've done all this work, the easiest thing in the world, if it's going into the card, it might as well go on to Alexa, and it might as well go on to Google Home. And so for free, as part of the campaign, we provide your brand with a complimentary Alexa skill. And of course, as I think you overheard the voice talent on the card say, on the card, it's finite how much information you can convey. But on Alexa or Google, it's infinite. You can update it. You can get customers to sign up for notifications, for product alerts, all sorts of things. So this is really, our little device is an amazing tool for discovery. One of the biggest challenges that the people at Amazon have for Alexa and the people Google have for Google Home is it has so many features. How do people discover it? And this is a great way to send out to prospects who you want to use your skill on Alexa or Google, a little taste of it, enough to make them want more.
Yeah, everything you're saying is amazing to me. So we use Alexa in our house, and I actually started my really, artificial intelligence conversations with Siri because I use iPhones. So the question I get, and we've already had it a couple times here, do you like Siri or Alexa better?
So, it's amazing. Apple, if you look at its history, has been an amazing copycat. Meaning to say, remember we used to have the iPod before we had the iPhone, and we used to be walking around listening to music. I mean, if you look at the history of that product, it started with the Walkman from Sony, and then people were coming out with MP3 players. But Apple did it better. They did the infrastructure better. They did everything better, and iTunes owned that market. And the same thing goes for the PC. But for some reason, in the case of voice, they weren't copycats. They were first movers. And they were the ones with Siri who introduced the whole thing, and they dropped the ball. Maybe they have plans that I'm not aware of, but I go to many symposiums and conventions in the voice industry. And between Alexa and Google, they have 80% of the market. And they're going into cars, and they're going everywhere. And, it's not simply a navigational device. People are able to do so much more. And as you know, with anything that's involved with artificial intelligence, it's a technology that learns. So you learn and you get better as more people use it. So unlike any other product, where certainly it always benefits a company to have the biggest user base, but in the artificial intelligence space, it's a multiplier effect, because not only do they have that user space in terms of market, but in terms of technology and learning. And so every time you use an Alexa, every time you use a Google Home, it's learning from you. Yeah. So I think that Alexa is the strongest on the smart speaker device. Google's advantage is that they're on Android. And so Siri kind of controls Apple. So Alexa, it's hard even though they're trying to get onto your mobile device, they kind of, you got two players there. But in terms of Android and Google and Chrome and desktop, Google certainly has an advantage. So we'll see how it all works out. But I think if I have to make a projection, in 5 years, it's going to be like operating systems and browsers. We're not even even going to remember who we're talking to. It's very likely that we're going to go from the home talking to Alexa into the car talking to Google, and then picking up our phone and talking to Siri. And they're all going to have these little, just like when you surf the internet and you go from browser or device, it knows you're looking for a barbecue. All of this is going to work to their advantage in terms of knowing what conversations you're having and what you're interested in. So voice is going to become ubiquitous, as it should be, because it's the most primal way of communication.
Yeah, and there's practical advantages. I think it was Julia who'd mentioned earlier, people that are blind, or perhaps they're doing something, a primary thing where they're using their eyes, but they can listen. Like maybe they're typing a report, or they're whatever they're doing on their computer, but they can listen to something and communicate, as a lot of us are working from home now. One of the things that I want to talk about before we jump more into the future, because I do want to ask you a few exploratory questions about what you think could be next, because you are in the technology space, you're an inventor, and you're a heck of a lot smarter than I am. So I want to pick your brain a little bit. But before we do that, I want to kind of step just backwards a little bit. And let's think about maybe the last 5 years and the technology, where it was and where it is now, especially maybe how it relates with COVID. The one thing that keeps coming back to me, it's kind of an obvious thing, is we're restricted, and still restricted now, with our face-to-face engagements, interactions. And, obviously the technology has come a long way in the last 5 years. You can see it in nothing else. You can just see it in the size of your pieces. Like if you look at the Build-A-Bear piece, it's a little bit thicker than some of the newer stuff. I saw you clicking like on the new Connect brochure, and those buttons look pretty skinny. So that's cool. So you could take this any way you'd like to, but if you could just tell us like some of the major advancements maybe in the last 5 years, and not only the technology and what you can do, but how maybe if there's an interesting case study or two of how people have used it to connect and bridge that communication gap, especially we're facing now with less interpersonal interaction.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I already touched upon the power of voice in terms of communication and emotional triggers and all that, and that has been accelerated during COVID. But the other interesting trend that COVID has accelerated, and again, it's something that I got an insight into from Build-A-Bear, is if you look at the toy industry today, I would not like to be in the toy industry. Kids want your phone. They want their mom and their dad's iPhone or Android. They want their tablet. Everything has a screen, and it's like candy for every child. And it's a real struggle if you're in the toy industry and you're doing the card games and the puzzles and all of the things that you and I grow up with. It doesn't compete with what's going on with the screen. And what's happening, and so Build-A-Bear has always been able to find a spot where parents actually like the fact that there is no screen, that it's tactile, and kids, I like to say the difference between a toy and play is huge. Toy is one thing, but playtime for a child, where they're learning, where they're experimenting, where they're communicating. And so all of the exploratory stuff that I'm doing in the toy industry is how to then kids, because I have a granddaughter who knows to ask Alexa for music already, and she's pre-screen, pre-toy. So it's an amazing opportunity to explore for kids what you can do just interacting. But even for adults, I mean, this COVID has brought on new concepts for us. You want touchless transactions. All of a sudden, touching a screen is not what it used to be, because there are germs involved, because thousands of other people have touched it. So all of a sudden, a company that maybe has been pushing voice interaction for an elevator is looked at a lot differently than they were a year ago. Why would you, in God's name, want to touch a button that everybody who's been in that elevator all day has touched? And so using voice as an interface, not as an emotional conveyor of triggers and stuff, but is an interface, I think is only going to get more important. And then there's the security element of it. We talk about a voice print. Well, all of our voices are very unique. And so I think that's going to be all of these areas where voice has kind of been in the shadows, I think are going to come more and more important at every aspect of life. And in terms of the technology, my biggest complaint is that since I've been doing this, the technology of batteries has not really changed that much.
Right.
They are still these clunky little cells that need to hold. And the biggest advance has been lithium ion, who have their own issues, but you can recharge, that type of thing. And now you can even recharge without having to plug anything in. So there is room for advances there. Clearly, speakers have become smaller and smaller, but the truth is we're starting to look at devices that have Bluetooth. So I have a wearable, they call it, which is what you and I used to call a headset. But in this wearable, you can already have a voice assistant, and if I hold up a card in an office and I open it up, it can go ahead and transfer that message through Bluetooth. We're looking at ways that people at home can buy this card, and instead of talking into it to record a message, they can use an app that we'll provide on their in the App Store to mix music, to take recordings of friends and family, to really create something that's very special using what we call user-generated content, and then transmit it from the iPhone app directly onto the card using Bluetooth. So now you live in a world where the whole transmission of our audio, of our content, is going to be streamlined. So whether it means you're doing it at home or you're ordering it online, and at a distribution center across the country, same day delivery, they can take that message and they can put it into a bouquet of flowers, or into a picture frame, or into a plush toy. Those are all of, I think, the real advances of technology. And the key word there is something called convergence, where you converge between the digital to physical worlds, converge between different types of interfaces. So it's a very exciting time to be in this space.
I like it. I like everything. We actually have a very good question, and it ties in here. How about the educational toys? And that's certainly a genre that Voice Express could help take it to a whole nother level, right? Yeah. So now books and toys could be, again, I want you guys to remember, this doesn't have to be connected to any Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or anything. This is self-contained data, and it's ready to go right out of the box. So whether you're on a farm in the middle of nowhere, if you don't have the internet, in my house, one of the things that frustrates me personally, in full disclosure, I have 8 children. Everybody's got 17,000 devices, and they're all hooked up to the internet, every single one of them, and they all hog my internet speed. You know what I mean? It slows everything down. So anything that I can get that isn't a screen or doesn't require Wi-Fi, I promote the heck out of that. Like, for example, we have this piano, and you can play the piano, and you don't need, there's no screen, there's no internet. It's actually, educational, to go along with Arshad's question here. But do you have any current clients using it in an educational type of a toy?
So, as I said before, our best ideas actually come from consumers and clients. And we have a very strong following in the special needs education space because they discovered our little voice recorders. And we have a voice recorder. I should have a sample of it. It's designed to go behind a frame, but what it is it's very flat. So it's kind of like a voice Post-it, you can go ahead and put it on anything. And the special needs, they've written monographs on it and all sorts of exploratory and clinical studies, where I believe the way they use it is for kids who have problems expressing themselves. Instead of saying a word like I have to go to the bathroom, or I'm hungry, or I'm happy, they can push a button on one of our devices. And because they're reprogrammable, as they advance, they can add more and more different voices. So we are selling in the special needs space, and that is strictly an educational toy. And in terms of other ways, clearly there's the opportunity for language learning. I mean, I must say that, oh, there's the product. Good for you, Ira. So the toy industry itself, you will be amazed as you have an infant, especially in those younger ages, how many toys are animated with voice, with music, with those kinds of responses. So it's pretty far out there. A company named Leapfrog, I believe, is probably the most advanced at integrating a voice interaction into games. And what makes Voice Express unique, actually, is that many of the technologies that we've developed in the toy industry, we are then taking to the consumer industry, to shopping. The toy industry is great because what they do is they develop things at a low cost to do something. They're not designed to go into a cockpit on an airliner and to make sure that they hear the pilot just correctly. They're made for casual interactions that can amuse, that can engage, that can educate. So there's really no limit to how these things can go into toys. The area that kind of intrigues me the most is toys that interact also with a smart speaker. So if you can imagine, you have an Alexa device here, and they're pretty much all scattered around the house. And then you're playing with a plush, and the plush and you can interact with the Alexa. So we've actually been talking to Amazon, and we use the old ventriloquist as an example, where the ventriloquist is sitting on the stage, and he might have a dummy or two sitting on his lap. And then there's the children in the audience, and you're having this multi-level conversation that is, at the end of the day, what is education if not just something that engages, intrigues, and makes kids want to ask questions and learn more. So I think that there's a lot has been done, but there's a lot more to do in the educational space.
There's no doubt about it. I've been just kind of blowing through some of these pictures as you've been talking, and there's all kinds of different ways to utilize these products. I do want to go back to this one right here. In fact, I'm going to pull up this one. And, this kind of shows it all right there. You've got a sticker that you usually will take and put that on the front. So people, because when they grab, they typically will put their thumb over the sticker, and then naturally their back finger will depress the button to play, right? Which I think is ingenious. I would have never thought of that myself. But you've got the built-in mic. There was a lot of questions about hacking. And this actually right now, when it's not connected to the smart devices, right, to Alexa, there is no way to hack this thing because it's recorded, it's self-contained. So what you do is you take like a pin or a pen and you press a recessed button and you record it. And the only way to hack that would be to take the device and to manually do it. And if you were successful in doing that, you would only have hacked that one. So this is one of the advantages of this technology, Geoffrey, is that this is not hackable in its current state. Now, future states, when you're talking about using an app to record, of course, unfortunately, bad guys can do bad things. But the advantages that you've said, also, you can continually update the message. A product updates. A parent, somebody had talked about earlier in the show, in the comments, about parents who are away. Maybe they're in the military, or maybe they're on an extended business trip, or maybe they're laid up in the hospital, or whatever. Imagine you have a toy with an app that you can have the parent who's away continually update the message, and there's that emotional connection that we talked about way in the very beginning of all this by just adding that extra element. Now, it's not just the toy or the book or the education. Let's say you've got, for example, right now with COVID, my whole family is doing remote homeschooling. They're still in school. They still have a teacher. They still have classmates, but they're learning remotely. Well, they do Zoom calls, so they get that interaction with their teachers. But imagine they had stuff like when they passed an exam, or they finished a certain project, or maybe they need a little remedial work, like, hey, try it again, and they get an encouraging message that can be updated and personalized just for them. You know what I mean? That goes with that particular unit or section. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to use this product. And I think that people could tell how excited I am because they watch me do these things all the time. But really, pre-sales, point of sale, and post-sale, and everything in between, for playing, for education, for, expressing your emotions with a gift. There's all kinds of ways to use voice express technology. So we have about 5 minutes left in the interview. If you don't mind, I want to pick your brain a little bit, and let's look into the future a little bit more. And you already touched on it, something I hadn't thought about. And I do think that that's an interesting point, that Apple normally is not the leader, the trendsetter, if you will. Well, they are the trendsetter, but usually they're not the first one to step out into new technology. They usually follow, and then they do it better. That's typically their MO. But with Siri, I didn't think about that they were, because I knew about Siri way before Alexa, right? And I didn't like Siri, in full disclosure, because I mumble and I stutter, and I have a little bit of a speech impediment. I have dyslexia, for those of you who don't know. So I do struggle with some of that stuff, and Siri doesn't always understand what the heck I'm saying. So, but Alexa gets me better, and we do have Alexa in our home, just for those of you who are curious. Anyways, but I like what you said about touchless technology. It seems like for the last 5 years, if you're asking me, one of the biggest things has been touchscreens, right? You're seeing touchscreens in a variety of places, but right now it is gross. I don't want to touch it. And I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, in full disclosure. So, I'm always thinking about that. Microbiology changed my world for the better or worse. I don't know. One of the two. But anyways, it definitely changed my perspective on life, right? When I took microbiology, I think in the 10th grade, it was like, wow, this is disgusting. Anyways, voice activated all kinds of stuff. So you've already touched on that. So beyond that, or maybe you've talked about the elevator as an example, 4th floor. And I've been on elevators like that. It is super cool. So what else? What do you think? Where do you see this going?
Look, there's really no limit to the way that it can go, and it's a question of the industry or the space. We talked about education in terms of an interface. I think there's clearly, I think if you walk away from this webcast, you'll start thinking differently about how voice can be used. It's we use it or we're not using it very, very often, but it's the most common way that we communicate with each other. It's there are some technologies that have been out there forever. Kind of like me, a lot of people say, Jeff, you're in the right place at the right time. And I said, I've actually been in the same place for a long time, but the market is catching up. And the same thing goes, I think people, it's still early adopters who are using voice to dictate as opposed to using their keyboard. So I think that's a technology that's there, that's getting better and better, and it's only a matter of time before it finds itself more. I mean, at the end of the day, when you are speaking to Alexa, many people don't realize what actually happens. Alexa then takes that, it sends it up to the cloud. It is turned from speech into text, sent through a computer the same way a chatbot would send information. A response comes back based on all the algorithms, and then it gets translated back again from text to speech. And if you ask Alexa, what is 579 times 322, and instantaneously she gives you an answer, all that happened in nanoseconds.
Yeah.
So the processing speed is quite amazing. But I've been at symposiums where they starting to look at voice differently. So here's one that'll kind of give you a sense of what lies in the future. In many cases, the whole ability to look at voice and try to reconstruct it and analyze it and understand it is based on and transmit it is based on compression technology. So we all know what an MP3 is. What we might not know is that you have a big audio file and they compress it down and making a small one. Okay. Well, let me give you an insight. If I take my voice and I turn it into text, I've compressed it a lot more than if I take that audio file and compress it into an MP3. Oh, but you say, but it's not me anymore. Well, on the other end, if it knows my voice, it can come back and recompress it. So look at the benefit of that. And that's an NYU professor who's working in that space in terms of bandwidth, in terms of speed, in terms of compression. So it's kind of like the NASA program. All of these technologies are giving birth to other areas where we can use them. And I think will change our lives immeasurably.
We have our friend with us, Kurt Anderson. And in full disclosure, Kurt is the reason I met you. So I'm always going to be grateful.
So he gets the blame.
Yeah, he gets the blame. Well, it depends. From you, blame, for me, gratitude. There's a lot. I have a lot of thoughts on this. There are marketing. I don't want to over nerd people out. And I know that some people are worried about hacking. So that makes me kind of curious to even say this at all. But there's a lot of data that is collected on people with their cookies and tracking. They're agreeing to allow people to basically collect information, preferences, histories that they can use later to market better. I think one of the things that will happen in the future with the voice is it's going to be like that. You're talking about stuff in the cloud all the time. There's going to be data points, more data points for people to send more specific branding information and help you better. I could see, and you talked about this too. You talked about it in two different ways, and I want to tie it together. So the one is, continuing a conversation. You're talking with somebody like a customer service rep for 5 minutes, or, you're going through their AI and you're giving them all the data, and it says like, can you verify your account number and the last four of your social security and blah, blah, blah. And then, so you do that for 5 minutes, and then it transfers you to somebody, and they ask you the same damn questions. It's like, well, why did you bother asking me all that the first time if you're going to ask me that again? So I think there will be some of that with voice. And you talked about, the technologies, it's going to be unambiguous, where you're in your car, you might be talking to Google, in your home, you're talking to Alexa, whatever. I think one of the things that we're going to see in the background, there's going to be more cooperation. There'll be a big data stockpile where it'll be advantageous to everybody to have a collective data access so that they can utilize your conversation in your home with Alexa while you're in your car. Maybe it knows now your favorite fast food place from the search that you were doing just 10 minutes before you guys got in the car, where we're going to go to eat. You're asking Alexa for restaurant suggestions, and then you get in your car and you're talking to Google. Wouldn't it be helpful for Google to know the conversation you just had? So when you say, take me to this place, it knows the one that you're talking about, right? It has a point of reference. I think that's the immediate future for some of this voice technology. And again, if you're having a conversation with a voice express product via the app or whatever, you're in the store, anything that's connected now to a smart device through the cloud, again, when you get home, because you said it, the AI is constantly learning. That's the thing I think a lot of people aren't thinking about with AI. It's not going to just stay stagnant. It is continuing to get better. So as these products and these conversations happen. And as the AI gets better, you get the information faster, not only because of what you're talking about with the professor at NYU, where they're learning to convert the MP3 to text, and that's a much smaller file. It's faster, but data transmission, as you know, is getting faster too. And so are, these channels for data to flow. So like my upload speed is different than my download speed. A lot of people don't understand all this, right? But all of those things are going to continue to get better, and it's going to be faster. I think it's just going to be like the internet network. It doesn't matter if you're using broadband or if you're using some type of VoIP or whatever service you're using, you're connecting to this giant funnel. And I think that the voice is just going to be a part of that, because at the end of the day, like you've said, our voices are unique. And there's a lot of things that can be done for security purposes. So like the retina in the eye or the fingerprint, if I'm doing multiple, like 2-layer authentication, why can't one of those layers be voice? You don't always have a touchpad or a retina scanner or a fingerprint scanner, but almost every device has a microphone. And so if you say, okay, well, your password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, money sign or whatever, right? Because you almost always have to have a symbol. But then the other part is, okay, speaking to the thing and read this sentence. You've pre-read that sentence, when you set up your account, and then it's listening for voice signatures that are unique to your voice pattern and your speech pattern. I think that's kind of where it's going. I don't know. I could be off base, but we'll come back in 5 years and see how accurate.
See how it all works out.
Voice Express is found at voice-express.com. Again, I'm going to put that in the chat, in the comments here, so everybody can see it. If you haven't gone on their website yet, please go ahead and do so. And I'm going to put that up. So visit their website. It's voiceexpress.com. You can learn about, the past. There's a blog on there, which is super cool. If you want to see where they're headed, the blog articles are amazing. You guys have wonderful videos too. I've complimented you on these in some of our private meetings. I think you're the person who does your videos, and it's not Bowman Digital Media, full disclosure. I'm not trying to give myself a pat on the back here. Whoever's doing your videos, they do a phenomenal job. I really like your branding, how it's consistent across the board too. So there's a lot of things that I would compliment you on, but I want people to check out your website. Also, since most of you are here on LinkedIn, I'm going to share the LinkedIn page so that you guys can follow along with Voice Express into the future. Support them. They're a great company. As you could tell, Geoffrey is incredibly intelligent, interesting person. He's fun. He takes a joke. He gives a joke. He said that he blames Kurt for introducing. I mean, not many people would say that, but I appreciate it because I like to tease the people I like, and I like them to tease me back. So anyways, I'm going to give you the final word, Geoffrey. If you want to talk about, the Connect product, or if you want to talk about, anything that comes to mind, the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Ira, for giving me this platform to introduce the Connect brochure. But I think it's a new year, and we survived a very tough year in the past. And I have grandkids, and I watch my granddaughter beginning to read. And if you think about everything that we've discussed now, the human person, the brain, is so amazing. She's taking that text, she's converting it into thought. She's then able to speak. If you think about the simple act of reading and what it entails, I think if you asked me, Ira, what I would love to be able to do in the future, I would love to be able to preserve a thought and send it on to 5 generations into the future. But that's what reading is. So when you're reading something that was written by, I don't know, Shakespeare or whatever, you're going into his mind. So I think that, technology is all good and fine, but the best technology is invisible. And the products that I'm most proud of is where after 2 seconds, the user forgets that they're actually using a technology and just can enjoy the moment and the information and the emotional attachment. And I think that's what we all have to do, especially those of us who are in the technology space, to understand, to humanize everything, and to understand that ultimately the magic of everything that we do is that magic that we all discovered in the past year, which is that a familiar voice and a hug and just knowing each other is what makes us survive. And so I wish us 2021 that's a hell of a lot better than 2020, and that we all get to create and explore new ways to engage people. And thank you, Ira, for having me.
And it's been my pleasure. Thank you all for joining us. I hope that you will continue to watch these shows and support me on LinkedIn. Find and follow Geoffrey Stern on LinkedIn. You also have YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You're on every social media platform. The website is there on the bottom left hand of the screen. It's voiceexpress.com. The blog articles, there's 2 a month, if I'm not mistaken. And
We try, yeah.
like I said, that it's cool because you get to see not only case studies for different ways to use this, because there are a plethora of ways, right? And we've been talking about it for the last hour, but there's business to consumer uses, and there's business to business uses. If you are running a company, or maybe you're in sales or the print industry, and you have an idea that you'd like to explore, Geoffrey said it. Almost every product has almost been an answer to a, can you do it this? Can you do it that? Wouldn't it be cool if Geoffrey's a true technological inventor? So give him the opportunity to have a conversation with you, and you can reach out to him, private message. If you don't know how to get a hold of Geoffrey, reach out to me. I know how to get him. We'll get you connected, and you guys can have that meeting. Geoffrey, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to play the video, and then we're going to bebop out to music, but this is where I'm going to let you go, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
This interview will be on Bowman Digital Media's website. If you guys want to check it out, I'll have the replay available for you there. And look for some new marketing materials coming out. We're going to cut this thing up and have some social media posts that you could support. We'd appreciate it on Voice Express coming real soon. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much.